Well, hello. Welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Chris Slade is a Welsh drummer who has enjoyed 60 plus years in the music industry. Chris started out playing in Tom Jones' backing band, the Squires. For 7 years, Chris backed Tom Jones, even playing on It's Not Unusual and all of his 60s hits. Chris was a founding member of Manfred Mann's Earth Band in 1971. He spent 7 years with the band, recording on and playing on and recording 8 albums. Over his career, Mr. Slade has played with Frankie Miller, Uriah Heep, Gary Numan, Mick Ralphs, was a member of The Firm with Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers, Gary Moore, AC/DC, Asia, and Michael Schenker. And I'm out of breath.
And David Gilmour.
And David Gilmour, too. In 2012, Chris formed the band, the Chris Slade Timeline, to mark 50 years as a professional drummer. The current lineup features Paul Bun Davis on vocals, Steve G on bass, James Cornford on guitar, Mike Clarke on keyboards and guitar, and Chris on drums. The band just released their new double album, Timescape, on July 19th. Well, welcome, Chris.
Thank you. I'm off now because you filled it all in.
Right. All right, we're done with the interview.
Yeah. Bye for now. Goodbye, everybody.
That's the fastest interview I've ever done. Okay. Let me get this. All right. Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born, and I was quite young at the time.
When you were born? Okay.
Yeah.
That's very rare. Okay.
It took a decade for me to get into music, man. Slow learner.
Okay.
And my older brother, Danny, taught me drums,
Okay.
a bass side drum, because he was in a street marching band.
Oh, okay.
And then he taught me a few licks, drum licks, that he knew in his street marching band. And I went from there.
Well,
and
he
he used to have his drum at home.
I was going to say, how did your parents feel about that, with playing drums in the house?
Well, they both worked. So,
okay.
And I was in school, supposedly. So I could practice on weekends and when I wasn't in school, which I did. And then I bought just a bass drum and a hi-hat and a snare drum, perhaps, and started practicing drum kit.
Okay.
And my brother didn't know anything about that, so he couldn't help me anymore.
You were on your own.
I was on my own. I was completely self-taught, and people would say, "Yeah, I know that. I can tell by his playing." Completely self-taught. So, but I could, when I hear things and I like them, I steal them. So, that's what all musicians do. They take guitar licks, and if they can play them, they'll play them, within their solo. And it's the same with drummers. If you hear something you like, you play it.
Yep.
I mean, I stole boom, bap, right. That was the first thing I stole.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the drummer, so I'm sorry about that. But that's the way everybody learns, and you should aspire to being as good as you can. And I wanted to be a drummer all my life. I haven't succeeded yet, but I'm working on it.
You're working. Well, it's a lifelong process, Chris. So eventually you'll get there.
Yeah.
You're going to get there. Well, were either one of your parents musically inclined at all? I want to ask you that.
My father was a singer and tap dancer.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably where the rhythm came from.
I was going to say, yeah.
And I'm now singing, so I suppose it's that's where it all came from.
You got those
and he had
genes.
a terrible voice, so blame my father, don't blame me.
Right. You
I
knew
blame
what
my
you.
brother for the drums.
Okay. Okay. He'll take the blame for that.
Yeah,
Well, well,
so he should.
could you remember early on one of the first singles or albums that you got?
First thing I bought was, let me think. Uh, hmm. It was a jazz album, actually, from
Okay.
a movie soundtrack called All Night Long. And Patrick McGowan played a drummer. And I thought that was cool, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
was
like
great. And
I
it
like
was a
all
good
the.
movie. And the funny thing is, I met a lot of the people that were in that movie. I knew them personally.
Is
Um,
that right? Is that right?
yeah. Um, I think it was British made, hence
Mm-hmm.
Patrick McGowan.
Yeah.
And there's a drummer called Barry Morgan. I remember he was playing a Latin American player.
Is that right?
Although he was English with pale skin, he was made up in the movie, and he was a great drummer. He played on a lot of Tom Jones's stuff, also. By the way, Tom used lots of different session players, including Jimmy Page.
Yeah. Oh, he did. I did not know that. Jimmy
Yeah,
Page played with
Jimmy
him.
Page played on a version of Snow Usual. I don't know if it was the final version, but he
Yeah.
played on a version.
Yeah.
Um, as did I, as
Yeah.
did a lot of other people, and nobody knows the definitive um, version. Even the producer didn't know because somebody asked him, one of the session guys asked him once, and he said something completely different. I know it wasn't that guy. Everybody in the session world knows it wasn't that guy, but I was on there as well, along with about three other different drummers. And he could have picked any one of us, but he didn't. He picked somebody. He named somebody, and it wasn't even that guy. I don't think that was
Really,
the guy that he mentioned. This is the producer of the record.
the producer
Um,
didn't
but
know.
there were no credits in those days at all for
Yeah.
anything.
Oh, right.
You know,
Well,
I
were
did a
you?
Tom Jones. I did a Tom Jones album called 13 Smash Hits,
Uh-huh.
and John Paul Jones is the bass player.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it doesn't say that in the album. There's no
Uh-huh.
credit whatsoever. But
Yeah.
that happened all the time in the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you
Well,
got your 10 quid for 3 hours, like $10 for 3 hours, you know,
yep.
which was worth a lot more then, of course. But nevertheless, that's what you got for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, you packed up and went home, and that's why I stopped doing it. I didn't like it at
Yeah.
all. I
Yeah.
didn't like setting up and then okay, we'll try this song now, right? Do that
Right.
about 27 times, and then okay, we'll do this song now, right?
Yeah.
So you learn it, and then you play it, and then you record it, and then you go home. I didn't like that process
You,
whatsoever.
you didn't like that. Yeah, I wouldn't like that either. I don't think. I don't think. Were you in a band before the Squires, or was that your first band?
Um, Squires is my first real band. There
Okay.
was youth club bands, things like that.
Right.
Before that,
Right.
um, only one or two, not many.
Okay.
Um, and I was in orchestra in school. Um, there were 1,000 boys in my school, and I was the only drummer
Is that right? The
out
only
of a
one.
1,000 boys. So nobody else wanted to play drums or had played drums.
Uh-huh.
And I went to a youth employment thing, what do you want to do after school?
Yeah.
Uh, well, I want to be a drummer.
Everybody.
Don't be ridiculous. They must have laughed for 2 minutes. Um, great
Oh my.
sense of, yeah. You can't make your living out of playing drums. It's not a job.
Yeah,
It's not a proper job.
right.
How about working in a shoe shop? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, what about your parents? How did they feel about you wanting to become a drummer? How did they feel?
They were very supportive. My father being a singer,
Good.
tap dancer,
Yeah.
they were very
Good.
supportive all the way
Good.
through, actually. And I always say what a good drummer needs when
Uh-huh.
he starts, it's essential. You think a drum kit.
Yeah.
No, it's good neighbors.
Oh, I got you. Right, right. That's right. That's a good point. Well, you were from the same village as Tom Jones, right?
Yes, I was. We were
Just about.
actually, he moved, but we were born about 200 yards from each other.
Wow.
And also, Phil Campbell was born in the middle between him, but 10 years apart, all of us. Tom was born, and now 10 years later, I was born, and 10 years later, Phil Campbell was born in the same village.
In the same little village.
Um,
Oh, wow.
so, Tom moved when he got married at 16.
Very young. Yes. Yes.
Um, he moved about half a mile away from where I grew up. So I knew
Oh,
where he lived. I'd never met him,
uh-huh.
but I knew where he lived.
Well, how
Uh,
did
I
he
know where you live, man.
I know where you live. I know what you did last summer. Yeah, I I wonder if that had. I was going to ask you if that had anything to do with him hiring you to be in the Squires, being from the same village. But he didn't know you,
No,
right? Okay.
no, nothing at all.
Yeah.
Um, he used to work with my father with my father's concert party, as they were called. They were called the Pontypridd Bright Lights. Um, and he used to come in and do the modern stuff, like Ghost Riders in the Sky, modern stuff like that.
Uh,
And my father used to come home and say that Tommy was singing again with us tonight. He's great. He's better than Tommy Steele, who was very big at the time in Britain as a pop singer.
yes.
And I say no. We used to have arguments, but I say he can't be because if he was, he'd be on television,
Yeah.
which we didn't have at home, by the way. I
Oh,
didn't get television at home till I was about 12.
okay. Okay. You had a radio though, right?
Sort of, yes. I don't know how. My brother had a record collection, and he had stuff like Pat Boone, and but he also had Elvis Presley,
Uh-huh.
and anything like that was current, if you like.
Yeah.
He had on a 78 wax, which is very, very brittle. And you dropped them, they were gone.
Oh, that's
Um, and they would scratch and all sorts of stuff like that. So, but I had, and we had a wind up portable little. They were Dansette was the make then,
right.
um, and very, very basic, but is what everybody used right through the 60s because there was nothing else available.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so it was good though. I could play with my toy soldiers and then play an Elvis Presley record.
Hey, I think all young boys grew up with toy soldiers. I used to have some myself.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I was talking to a guy the other day about that, those fond memories of playing with them, And I had these and there's an English a company that makes them, and I don't know if it was the same kind I used to get, but it was like a snap apart. So they were Indians, cowboys, and knights. Knights I remember buying
All
individually,
right.
and you could take off the top part of their torso and put it on another one, snap it into a different one,
All right.
and like that, mix and match like that.
An Indian
that
night.
that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Yeah. So,
You had
well,
plastic ones, obviously. These
yeah.
soldiers I had were lead.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
Don't forget,
exactly.
this was 1950s.
Right. Yes, exactly. You had the old original ones. Well, I wanted
Yeah.
to show you this. I wanted to show you this. Speaking of Tom Jones, I picked this up not too long ago. It's a collection. It's got 4 albums on
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It's got a top. You probably played on all of these too. Atomic
Quite
Jones.
possibly. As I said, there were other drummers, but there were only 3 or 4 of us, 5 maybe.
Yeah.
And we all had to go at some of the tracks, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's like 4 on here. Atomic Jones, which is my
Yeah.
favorite. Green Green Grass of Home has some nice tracks on it. Delilah, one of his hits, and then Along Came Jones. All 4 of those are on here, and it was at a really cheap price too. But some nice material I didn't know of before listening to these. You know, of course, the big hit is Not Unusual from Along Came Jones, but of his '60s material, like I said, I like the Atomic Jones from '66, the following year, like Face of a Loser, In a Woman's Eyes. I don't know if you remember any of these. More, I'll Never Let You Go, To Make a Big Man Cry, A Little You, and Where Do You Belong. Those are all really, really nice tracks.
Right. He's got a great voice, as Tom.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Probably the greatest untrained voice ever born, the way I put it. Natural voice. Yep.
Exactly. I mentioned the
he
Green
could sing. His range was incredible.
Yes.
In those days, 60s, 70s. You know, he's now in his 70s and 80s. He's 80 odd now. His top end has gone a little bit, but that's bound to happen when you're 80.
Right.
You know, he still sings, he still performs, and he's still making records.
Yes.
So, you know, he's resilient.
Right. So he and Engelbert Humperdinck too.
I did some sessions for Engelbert too.
Oh, did you? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I used to know him. But he was a nice guy.
You made the rounds. You definitely got around. Well, now I'm reading your bio. I saw the name of a band, Tomorrow, with 2 O's, Toomorrow, and I thought it was a typo at first because I was thinking of the Steve Howe band. You know, the band he was in with the future Yes guitarist. It's just spelled regular Tomorrow. And then I read about it and found out Olivia Newton-John was in that band. Okay. Yeah.
It was a movie project.
Okay.
And you know, we didn't do any gigs. We rehearsed.
Yeah.
But we didn't do any shows at all. We just did promotion for the movie.
Right.
And it was a terrible movie, I'm sorry to say. And it was Livy's first, you know, which is a great vehicle for her. She came from Australia, and she's a good singer, very good singer. And you know, that's sort of started her off on the trail, if you like.
Yeah.
I think she sung in Australia anyway, I'm sure.
Yeah. I looked at the credits, and it was a Don Kirshner film. Who would go on to do Don Kirshner's rock concert. Okay. Yeah. Early Olivia Newton-John. Well, I was going to ask you next. Then came Manfred Mann's Earth Band. And you were a founding member.
Yeah, Manfred called me one day. Always at home because there were no cell phones in those days, of course. And he got my number and called me and asked if I was interested in forming a band. And of course I was, because Manfred was a big name from the 60s. This was early 70s, like 70, precisely, 1970. Because the band was formed in 71.
Right.
In January 71. I know that because my first son was born. So that's how I can date it precisely. Otherwise, I don't have a chronological head. You go, when was that? Oh, I don't know. Last century, this century.
Close enough. Close. Well, I have to say about Manfred Mann, I like his early, the 60s material, the more pop. But I think when he formed with you, Manfred Mann's Earth Band, I think he was more able to branch out, spread his wings, do more what he really wanted to do, what he had
Yeah,
probably been wanting to do for
it was a
some
prog
time.
rock band.
Yes, yes,
Earth
prog
Band
rock.
was a prog rock, and we
Right.
tried to get some singles as well as prog rock. We
Yeah.
could never capture the excitement or the feeling that we got on stage. We were great live. Mick Rodgers is a tremendous guitarist.
Yeah.
He's still there. He's still playing with Manfred,
Yeah.
even now. And it was more like Cream than anything else that
Okay.
on stage.
Okay.
And it was fantastic to play in that band because we used to go off on musical tangents
Yeah.
everywhere,
Right.
and
Kind
just
of
jam.
and improv. Do a
And
lot of improv. Yeah.
for long,
Improv.
long solos, and people loved it.
That's great.
They can't even like a solo these days.
No, I think part of it is today people have become more and more short attention span. More and more.
Yeah, yeah.
Back then, I think there was more. Like you said, we weren't as we had a wider attention span. I think than that. Could appreciate that kind of thing.
Some
Jamming.
people do. Some people like prog rock, and this album, Timescape, is very proggy in places, actually.
Oh, very, very good, very good.
And
have you got? I'll ask you about that.
There's a lot of fans in Germany that love that.
Oh,
they love
yes.
that side of the band of Timeline.
Okay, so you've gotten some response already from fans.
No, but one side is live, which is the AC/DC, Asia, Uriah Heep, all that sort of stuff. AC/DC, and all points in between. So that second side, the second disc on the CD is done live, but we did it through a desk, so it could be mixed a bit better than on a phone or something.
Right.
And that was the difference. We tried to get the live feel, like we tried to in Earth Band. Right. And it feels very Earth Bandy to me, that the Timeline Timescape. It feels a bit like an Earth Band album, actually, from the 70s, which I'm trying not to date it desperately, but that's the feeling I got from it when I was doing it, because although I got the producers on there, the engineers who are also the producers who did the sound, I'm no good at that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I do help with the mixing, as I always have done. And the first side, I wrote 90% of it, even down to bass lines and things, string lines, harmonies. I sort of came up with all those. And the guys are good too. They came up with their own on some of the things. And they wrote one of the songs, the second song on the first side. They wrote that between them. And I think it's a good balance, to be honest. And I got to sing for the first time, lead singer, first time ever in Time Flies. The band said, well, because I always demoed everything, so the singers can learn the song. And so I demoed it. And then I would say, I think that's a Bun Davis song, or that's a Stevie G song. And we'll take it from there. But we all sing. The only one that didn't get a lead part this time was Mike Clarke, the keyboard player.
Oh.
And he was the one that helped me do the writing, because I don't play a chordal instrument, but I can hum very well.
Okay. Well, I wanted
So
to go
I go, okay, Max, sort that out. Put some chords behind it. So,
back.
you know,
Well, I can sing real good in the shower, so I know that.
yeah, right. I don't do that. Although I did. I got a little handheld recorder.
Yeah.
And I used that. It's funny enough, I went into the shower to put the echo on it till I wanted.
Is that right? I know a lot of bands, have recorded in the bathroom, because of the kind of the echoey,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
The
first
tiles.
recording, one
Yeah.
of the first, though it was the first recording thing, was with a record producer called Joe Meek.
Yeah. Oh,
And
you have Joe Meek stories. Okay. Yeah.
right. And
Uh-huh.
his echo chamber was his bathroom.
Uh-huh.
And his big claim to
Yes.
fame
Yes.
was Telstar, a record
Right.
called Telstar, which
Right.
is #1 all around the world.
Right.
And he used all sorts of electronic gizmos, which he invented himself,
Right.
by the way, put them
Right.
all together. And he was really good at it. But unfortunately,
He
he
had
was a
some
bit
psychological
strange.
issues.
He was
Yeah,
a
he
bit
had some.
strange.
Well, I just talked to Rod Butler, who was the guitarist with the later incantation of Honeycombs in the late
Oh,
'60s.
yeah, yeah.
And of course, Joe Meek, produced them,
Yes,
and
of
and he
course.
ta- and he tells stories about that too. So, about Joe. Joe was kind of like our Phil Spector in a way.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think it was the
Yeah.
British Phil Spector.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it was way before Phil Spector, of
Yes,
course.
yes, he was. Yes, he was. Well, I wanted to ask you about you were 8 albums with Manfred Mann's Earth Band over a 7-year period. There
Yep.
again, is that 7-year longevity? Is that a coincidence? Because you're with Tom
I
Jones
seem to
for
be a
7 years.
7-year person. I've been in AC/DC. It took me
Yeah.
twice to do it, but I've been in AC/DC twice, and it
Yeah.
adds up to 7 years, just about
Oh,
somewhere around there.
yeah. That's something, man. That's very interesting. I find that interesting. Well, my favorite. I want to go back to Manfred Mann. My favorite album is Watch. That's my
Oh,
favorite.
yeah.
Yeah. It's got, Circles, Chicago Institute, Davies on the Road Again, of course, Mighty Quinn. But my favorite, do you remember California?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Was
beautiful.
it, who was the writer there? Was it Sue Vickers? I think it was.
It might have been. Yeah, and I always like that cover. The guy running on the
Yeah,
tarmac. He's gonna
yeah.
he's gonna he's gonna fly. He's gonna take off. I like that.
It was that was a painting done by a young artist. He was only a teenager at the time, and Manfred knew him, and we all liked it.
Yep.
And it was just that picture,
Yeah.
and we thought we needed a title. And Dave Flett, the guitarist, went, "Watch,"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that was it.
I like to hear origins like that, where titles of albums and things come. It is Sue Vickers. Sue Vickers did write that.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Good memory. Good memory.
I don't know where that came from, but there you go.
Well, I would say Nightingales and Bombers is a close second. I like that album.
Yes,
And yeah,
I liked all the Earth Band albums because, but I wouldn't I? But, we all had input in the production of it, production ideas.
yeah,
And Manfred heard this tape on the radio of during the First World War of the Nightingale singing, and then
right. A
the
recording,
bombers coming over.
right.
So that was a very powerful thing, we thought.
Yes.
And so, we'd start the album with that.
Yes.
And it seemed to work.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to mention, it's very eerie listening to that, I mean, feel the nightingale, and then you can hear them slowly approaching. You know, the hum, you know, of the
Yeah.
planes, the bombers. That
Yeah.
is eerie. That is eerie. Well, I also like the Earth album, the Good Earth album,
Oh
the
yeah,
Earth
yeah.
the Earth Hymn. I like that one. Joybringer, great single from '73. Another one.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that is, as you know, that is on this Timescape album, and
Oh, okay.
I wrote the lyrics to it, so I figured that's close enough to be an original for me. And the same with Questions. That's also on
Oh, I
Timescape,
love questions. Yeah.
and they were like, they were both successful singles.
Yeah.
All in different places, Scandinavia mainly.
Yeah.
And they both by classical composers, at least the melodies are by classical. It's got Slade Mann on Questions because he found the melody that fit in my poem.
Okay.
So that's why he's down there as a writer. It's actually Schubert's third impromptu, if I got that right.
Oh, okay.
And it fitted perfectly to the poem that I wrote. It hardly needed to be changed at all to to accommodate. So that was a great stroke by Manfred to find that melody.
Find that to fit your poem so well like that. Well, you know, of course, we haven't mentioned the biggest hit, probably "Blinded by the Light." Um, what was Manfred's affinity with Springsteen? Because you guys covered, you know, a few of his songs.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Manfred and I were given Greetings from Asbury Park, the first Springsteen album, when it came out. We were playing New England, a club in New England, and we were both given that. And I went back to Britain telling everybody who'd listen about this great American writer called Springsteen, and a great performer because we went to see him live as well. He was doing like 3-hour shows at that point. I've been 5 hours, I know.
Yeah.
And so he was renowned for that. So, and he's a great performer, still, of course.
Yes.
And I met Max Weinberg, the drummer of the E Street Band, and he came to see the Firm at one time, and we were backstage, and I said, "Oh, Max, I should tell you, I'm the original drummer on Blinded by the Light." He said, "Oh man, that kept us going for years."
Yeah.
So you can imagine the royalties coming into Bruce's account
Right.
that he plowed back into the band, of course, which is what I do with, although we keep our heads above water as a band because we've never stopped working really in 12 years. Once a band stops gigging, it's the end of the band.
Right. You have to keep playing live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of Springsteen, I mean, you guys covered "Spirits in the Night," another one, and then for you, I really like, and I have to say, I like your cover versions better than his originals. I do. I really do.
Don't tell Bruce.
No, we'll make sure he doesn't watch this. Yeah.
I'm sure he doesn't like our version of Blinded by the Light because Manfred popped it up a lot, made a pop song out of it. Which is still played today in America. I know, I go there a lot. My daughter lives in America. It's on radio even now. At least 4 times a day I hear it.
Right.
Even now. The next century is still being played.
It's that kind of a song that has that longevity. It's gonna be played forever. Yeah, it was Manfred's
arrangement. We all put ideas in, But his arrangement of the piano thing, that clink, clink, clink,
Oh,
clink, clink,
yeah. Yes.
that was
Oh,
all
yeah.
Manfred, because
Uh-huh.
Bruce did it as a sort of a shuffle on guitar, and that was
Right.
it.
Right.
But
I
Manfred
think
had his knack of finding, he did the same with Bob Dylan songs,
yes, that's
and
another one that he borrowed from Bob Dylan. Yep.
you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
people often say, "Oh, I preferred Manfred's version of that Dylan
Right.
song than Dylan's,"
Right.
and
Right. Right.
which is what you just said. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's got a knack for finding really good songs and
Yeah.
making really good arrangements out of them.
Yeah.
He's
I
done it
think
all
that
his life.
he has a good ear for melody too. I think that's a key. You know,
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
not that Bruce doesn't, but I think the keyboards adding that to the songs. I think that might be the key. For me, that's what really got me was adding that.
Yeah.
Well, any before we move on, any other interesting Earth Band stories to tell?
Oh, I'm sure there must be. I can't think of them right now, but I'll probably keep them for the book anyway.
Oh, there you go. Okay. You have to read the book. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what were the circumstances surrounding you leaving the band?
Manfred wanted to retire.
Okay. Okay.
He was about, I can't remember how old he was. He was about 50 at the time, roughly. I can't remember. It might be 40, might be older, but he wanted to retire. That's what he told us. So, long story short, uh, we disbanded. And once you do that, that's the end of things, really. Like I said, no gigs, no band.
Right.
So that was the reason. But now, Manfred's still going out as Manfred Mann's Earth Band, and he's 88 or something, and he's
My
still
goodness.
doing gigs, still playing at gigs with Earth Band. Mick Rodgers is still with him in Earth Band.
Yeah.
And
You're still going. Yeah.
he probably sat at his couch for 2 months and went, I'm going back on the road. But by that time, I'd moved on. By the time we put the band back together, I'd moved on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I was with AC/DC then, or something like that. I can't remember.
According to the bio I was following, next up was Frankie Miller.
Yeah, well, that was just a session project.
Okay.
But I was co-owner of a recording studio, along with Colin Pandan, actually the bass player in Earth Band, and another couple of guys. And he was using the studio. He didn't have a drummer. And they asked me to, would I be interested? And I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's a great singer, Frankie.
Yes, he is.
I'm afraid he's no longer able to do anything much.
That's true.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, Scottish. Yeah. How did you come to join Uriah Heep and play on the Conquest album, 1980?
I knew them for a start, and we were on the same label, Earth Band and Heep, and we used to work together also all over the world. And whoever was strongest in whatever city we were in would decide who'd be headlining the show.
Okay.
So I knew them. I still went along and sort of auditioned for them. And they were quite happy to use me as the drummer. So I did that for a couple of years, about 2 years, actually.
Yeah, you toured with them. Yeah, you played live with them.
Played a lot of places all over Europe, certainly. Maybe in the States as well. I can't remember. But the great thing about that was, for me, was John Sloman, the singer and writer. And we're still friends. And the same with Colin Pattenham. We're still friends. John Sloman's a great writer and a great artist. He's just been undiscovered for decades, unfortunately. And Pino Palladino, bass player.
Oh, yeah.
Him and John went to school together.
Oh, did they? Okay.
And because Pino's Welsh, he sounds like it's Italian, but he's
He
Welsh.
does. Right.
His father is, of course, Italian.
Yes.
Giuseppe Pino Palladino.
Yes, yes. Well, I just talked to Louis Sanamo, who was in a bunch of bands. Renaissance. He was in The Herd with Peter Frampton. He was
All
in
right.
Coliseum, Steamhammer. Some of those prog bands too. And he's
Wow.
Italian. He's Italian too, but born in England.
Yeah.
So he's got that Italian heritage. As well.
Yeah.
So well, I find the next collaboration I find interesting. Gary Numan.
Yeah.
On his
He was recording in Rock City Studios, which was our studio. And he didn't have a drummer, so he asked me, and I said yes, of course. And he said, "Do you know any fretless bass players?" And so I immediately thought of Pino and put him forward, and that was the first time that Pino was a bass player.
Okay.
But I knew he was great at it. He was a guitarist before that time. And he used to play a double neck guitar like Jimmy Page,
Yeah.
So that was Pino. He was Jimmy Page before he was Pino Palladino.
Okay. I was going to ask you about that. Do you think it's easier to go from playing bass to guitar, or the other way? If you play guitar, it's easier to go to playing bass.
I think there's a lot of good bass players, actually, that started on guitar and switched to bass, and they became great bass players. Of course, they're stringed instruments anyway. You know what the frets are, so if you're any good, you can find your way around all of them.
Pick it up.
The young bass player was with Jeff Beck. Hal, she's great, and she started on guitar. I can't remember her second name, but Tal is her first name, and she's a great player. And jazz as well, jazz rock.
Right. Yeah. Well, before moving on, I wanted to say that was a bit of a departure from you from rock and prog rock to new wave with Gary Numan.
It's I'm thankful that my technique would allow me to switch between what I just change. I just play drums, and if I need to hit this drum or that drum, or play in this sort of pattern, I will and can, thankfully, because I started with jazz, as I said. So
you were able to fit in there. Well, yeah, I used to DJ at a dance club back in the 80s. And I would play We Take Mystery to Bed. You remember that one? And Music for Chameleons quite a bit.
Oh,
I would play both of those. I would play, and you hear your drumming. You definitely hear your drumming on those tracks. So
yes.
Did you enjoy that, playing on that album?
Yeah, we did. We did some tours as well, and it was great playing with Pino. Really was.
Okay.
And he went with the Who after. I think it was, Townsend recognized. He went first of all. That's right. He was working with Townsend on his solo albums, and then, of course, when the terrible thing happened, he became the bass player in the Who, and he does a great job, as he always does.
Right. Well, how did you come to join Mick Ralphs' band?
I don't know how it came about. I think I can't remember how that happened, but I knew him socially, so maybe that was it. Maybe that was
that was the same band that I omitted to say in the intro that backed David Gilmour on his 1984 tour. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Dave called me again at home, no mobile phones. And I said, yes, Dave, I'd love to do it, of course. But I'm involved with Mick Ralphs' band. He said, oh, that's okay. Mick's doing it too. so that was all right.
He was already on board.
Yes, they were great friends anyway. They probably still are. I'm sure they are.
Well, let me ask you, did playing with Mick Ralphs help you in getting the job with Paul Rodgers in the firm?
I've no idea, but when I got the call from Gilmour, I said to the missus, just go down the pub. Went down the pub for lunch. I'm going on the road with David Gilmour. Okay, great. Celebrate. Woohoo. And it really was celebration. And so I came back from the pub after lunch. Phone rings. Hello, it's Jimmy Page here. It's like, oh, come on, Fred. I know it's you messing me about. No. It really is Jimmy Page.
Okay.
And okay, Jim. Nice to hear from you. Me and Paul Rodgers are putting a band together, and we'd like you to play drums. And I said, wow, I can't believe that, Jim, because just an hour and a half ago, I just said yes to David Gilmour tour. Yeah. So silence, I thought, it's the end of that. That'll be the end of that gig. He said, that's okay, we'll wait. And it was like,
wait. Wow. Okay.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so then he said, how long for? 3 months. Okay. Just let us know how you're doing and what's happening, and we'll just hang around. We're in no rush, and we'd like to play drums. Okay.
Wow.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That must have felt good. I mean, that he respected your drumming, and he wanted you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just gobsmacked. Is the word, I think.
That they would wait. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they ended up, it's supposed to be a 3-month tour. Will Gilmour kept just being extended. And, it got to 9-10 months in the end before I came back off the road. And we went all over the world with Gilmour, sometimes twice. And finally finished. I was talking to Jim all this time, of course. And, in the end, it was a year before we started with the band. It didn't have a name yet. That came much later. So we did a few tracks and try it out, and it worked perfectly as far as they were concerned, they being Paul and Pagey. So that was the band.
Yeah.
With no name.
Yeah. And then the band was complete with bassist Tony Franklin. Yeah.
Yes. Tony came in, another fantastic fretless player, and a great musician. He plays, he's trained pianist also, and he also sings. Great asset to any band, and a very musical bass player, if you like. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very
and
versatile.
We still talk occasionally.
Yeah. Oh, you do. Okay. Well,
occasionally.
There were a couple of albums of the firm that weren't too shabby in 1985 and 86. Actually did quite well.
People come to Timeline gigs and they bring the firm records for me to sign. And more than half of them, say to me, and this is dozens and dozens and dozens of people, and they say, will you sign this for me, Chris? And I go, of course. And they go, this is my favorite album
Oh,
of all
wow.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so many have said it to me. It's quite unbelievable. It's not with me. It would be Led Zeppelin or something,
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
Pink Floyd. Uh,
Uh,
but I think, wow, and they mean it. They're genuine. And
yeah.
it's been said so many times to me. I go, you mean this album's your favorite album? It's not like favorite apart from Led Zeppelin. No, I mean it's my favorite album.
All time. All time. Well, it
And
just
dozens of people can't be, hundreds of people
no,
actually
no.
can't be
Right.
lying, you know?
Right. It just shows you guys made a connection with an audience there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Very much
It was
so.
it was a very good band. We did some tours. You'd have to ask Pagey and Paul why it ground to a halt. Um, I thought it was a really good band and had more longevity than it should have had more longevity than it did.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's life. And
You
on to
move
the
on.
next one.
You move on. I was going to say you were playing with Gary Moore on a temporary basis when AC/DC's Malcolm Young saw you play. What happened?
I replaced Cozy Powell
Okay.
on that because Cozy did the album, and I got a call, and I had to be at I can't remember where it was, Shepperton or somewhere like that, studios at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning with your drum kit, ready to play. Okay, I did that. It was a hell of a hassle, I remember. And played a little bit. And then they said, okay, you've got to learn the whole set in 4 days because we're on the plane on Friday. So it's the hardest thing I have ever done.
Oh, yeah, I can
And
imagine.
it wasn't just learn the songs, it was learn everything on the album that Cozy had done. In other words, hi-hat chips, just in the right places at the right time. And even Cozy didn't want to do that. That's why he left,
Oh, is that right?
because Gary wanted it exactly that drum part. So I did that, and I'm very proud to say that I did it very well. And I got all the little things that were on the drum track, and I remembered it. I'm pretty good at doing that sort of thing. And I was there for a year, and there's a DVD actually of it's on YouTube as well, of a Dublin gig that band did. And I'm quite pleased with it. The sound is good, everything is good. My playing is good. Gary's playing is great, as it always is. He's a great guitarist.
Yeah.
Bob Daisy was the bass player. There was a keyboard player. I can't remember right now. I know he's English. That's all I know. That's all I can remember. Sorry. um, and it was a great project. And yes, Malcolm came to see the band, and he must have obviously liked what I was doing. And I was I was introduced to him by Bob Daisley because he's Australian after the show, and all Bob said was, "Oh, Slade, this is Mal."
Uh-huh.
Now he didn't say this is Mal from AC/DC or this is Malcolm Young or any of that. This is Mal. Hi, Mal. Great. And we got on like a house on fire, me and Mal, and we really did. And we hit it off immediately. It's just one of those immediate things. And I had
Yeah.
no idea of who or what he was. I had an inkling that he was a musician of some kind, but that's all.
Okay.
You know, and don't go, Mal, by the way, what do you do, mate? I play guitar in this band, you know. Oh, great, you know, good one. What they called? Oh, you don't do that, you know.
Right.
It's like, you know, cheesy buns, you know. No, I've never heard of you, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you're very good. Yeah, we're not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how
Playing it
you know,
down, yeah, like modest,
but
too modest.
we just hit it off straight
Yeah.
away, straight away.
Yeah.
And but I still had to audition, and that gave me the chance to audition because they had the same management at that time. AC/DC and Gary Moore had the same management.
Okay.
So I found out in the audition, after the audition, actually, Dick, the drum tech, told me that I was number 100 on the drumming list.
Oh my
And
God.
that because they did a few sets of auditions. I think it was Australia, America, and England. And I did the English ones because I lived an hour away from the rehearsal place.
Yeah.
And everybody and their uncle applied for that drumming job.
Okay. Yeah.
And they used to get phone calls saying, you know, don't tell my band, whatever you do, don't tell my band, but I want to try out for you guys. You can imagine, can't you? I'm not going to say who it was, but they're
Right.
big names, big
Yes.
names.
Yeah. Oh, sure. For AC/DC. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you ended up playing with them for 5 years.
I joined in AC/DC in 1990, I think. Malcolm, also another genius, the best rhythm player ever born, I think.
Right.
He drove a band without speeding up, which is a trick in itself.
Right.
Always on time, always in perfect meter, and just did his job.
Right.
And he was the backbone of AC/DC.
Exactly that, and how he comes up with those riffs. I mean, and new
Yeah.
ones all the time. How, you know, oh, man.
Yeah. Well, they both do actually. You know, they're a writing partnership.
Right.
And they're both great writers, I think. Tremendous writers, both of them.
Yep. Yep. Well, then you joined the band Asia.
Yeah.
Do you remember who was in the band at that time when you joined?
Jeff Downs and John Payne, bass player, singer John Payne.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody else at that time.
Okay.
And they, believe it or not, they only had an address for me. They didn't have an email address for me. They only had a home address.
Okay.
So they wrote a letter to me, which came through my letterbox, saying, "We'd like you to play drums with us."
Yeah.
Honestly.
It was a letter.
With a letter. Have you ever heard anybody say that before?
No.
I probably got the letter somewhere still. But,
it's a shame, you know, it's a shame we've lost that art of letter writing. You know, that used to be an art to that. You know, with your signet, you know, with your own handwriting and that taking the time
I agree.
to
I agree.
Now it's just too easy, you know.
Younger people, you know, can't even spell now on text.
No,
never mind.
no.
Never mind write a letter. Handwrite a letter.
They don't teach handwriting anymore. That's a
No.
shame. It really is. It's a shame. Yeah.
It is. It's a great shame. You see some of the Victorian handwriting.
Oh yeah.
Copper plate handwriting. It's beautiful.
Exactly.
And they all had that hand. They were all taught that hand.
Right.
For those who could read and write. Of course, for the poor people, they couldn't even read, you know, or write, unfortunately. That was the system, I'm afraid. And it's a terrible system. It's only last century did that come to be, didn't it?
Yes.
Before that, people couldn't read or write. They
Right.
could speak, but they couldn't read or write. And spelling was not spelling wasn't solidified yet.
No.
Not that it is now, because America spells things differently to European spelling or the British spelling, actually.
Right. Right.
Color is
There you
spelled
go.
differently.
Yeah. Right. You guys always have to put a U in there. Have
Yeah,
to add that. Add that.
yeah. I'm sure there's. I love languages, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So semantics is my thing, if you like.
Yeah. Yes.
And I love the differences between languages and the way we say different things and
Yeah,
different
I do too.
phrases
I
for
do
saying the
too.
same thing.
Right. I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating. And the slang, the different slangs from different,
Oh, you have no chance. You have no chance with British slang,
Right.
because I don't, and I'm British.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, with Asia, you played on a couple of albums, Aura and Silent Nation, in the new millennium. How were the live tours, the live shows?
Really good.
Yeah.
The guitarist by that time was Guthrie Govan,
Oh,
who is
okay.
now considered to be one of the greatest guitarists in the world, actually,
Yeah.
even by guitarists. You ask a few, and Guthrie Govan, as they say in the States,
Yeah.
is he's way up there.
Yeah.
I think he's done
Well,
work with Steve Vai and people like that with the three guitar thing, but no, he's way up there. But nobody, when he was in Asia, I worked with him for 7 years and off and on with Asia, and he was tremendous. One of the greatest guitarists ever.
yes.
Just unbelievable. And he actually gave James Cornford Timelines. He gave him some lessons in the beginning when James was, his formation years, if you like.
Yeah.
And James is now a tremendous guitarist.
Yeah. Yeah. He's well respected. Yes. Yes. Very much so. Yeah.
But Guthrie is way, way up there. He's
Right.
now from being an unknown. And the great thing about him, he looks like Jesus, but he doesn't have an ego of any kind.
Right. He's very humble. That's
Yes, he is.
yeah. Yes. I like that in people. I like that quality in people. Well, enter Michael Schenker of
Yeah.
UFO and the Michael Schenker Group. How did you hook up with him?
I can't remember. I really can't remember.
It's all right. That's okay.
It just came through the grapevine in some way. I no idea right now, unless I'll rack my brain about that.
That's okay.
I can't think why that
Right.
happened.
He didn't send you a handwritten letter in the post.
No. I sent one back to thanks guys, but no thanks.
That's good. Yeah. How long did it take you to get that handwritten letter? Do you remember how long? Was it
probably
post?
a regular thing in Britain, about 5 months. I don't know, but it was probably just a few days, I expect.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Well, you worked together with Michael off and on between 2005 and 2010.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was off and on.
Yeah.
But he was off and on also, just doing stuff. It was great. I went to South America with him. I went to lots of places. It was great. I enjoyed it. At the end of the tour, he said to me, "Oh, Chris, third song. This is the last. We've just done the last gig ever.
Okay.
Third song a bit too fast. Fifth song a little bit too slow. Seventh song, it needs that intro needs to be looked at or something. Now we'd finished the show, let's finish the tour, right?
Yeah.
This is afterwards. And I said, but Michael, that one you mean, the seventh one, you start. And he said, oh, don't listen to me. Honest to God.
Don't listen to him.
Yeah, don't listen to me.
Oh, great. Yeah, I
And that's
enjoyed
what you
his.
get. That sort of thing you got to work with.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Listen, don't don't listen to what I say. Listen to what I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
or,
Or
you
don't
know,
even listen to that. And
don't even.
don't even listen to that. Disregard it completely. Okay. If I say or do anything, it don't matter. Don't matter at all. But you're supposed to do it right. Get it
Yeah,
right next time.
right.
Okay. Yeah, okay, Michael.
By whose standard? Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah, he's quite the guitarist. So I enjoyed his work with UFO. UFO is one of my, favorite bands going back with Phil May and all those guys. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, some good stuff. Well, in 2012, you started the band, the Chris Slade Timeline, and that coincided with your 50th anniversary in the music business.
Yep.
Yep, 50 years at that point.
It's been 60 years now.
Yeah. Yep.
This year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to play my career. I didn't want to just play AC/DC. I'd done that in the States.
Right.
I had a few different bands in the States that did just AC/DC, but I wanted to put more into it, like Michael Schenker, like David Gilmour, Uriah Heep. I wanted to do my whole life, if you like. And I knew these guys are capable of it because I knew them before. And they worked in pubs and clubs, and I used to go and see them. And they were playing covers, but they were playing covers from like Genesis and Kansas and stuff like that. So I knew musically they were absolutely fantastic. And they even used to, in pubs, they used to get applause for solos, which don't happen very often in pubs. Does it?
So you knew you wanted to tap that. You knew you wanted to play with those.
And we've been together for 12 years, and it's the same band, and we get on well, and we see each other all the time. Last weekend we were in Italy.
Oh, were you? Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Did a show down there. And a couple of weeks we're in France. Yeah. 3 months ago we were in Poland, Czech Republic, Germany, Spain, lots of places. And that's the way we work. We work all over Europe because it's difficult to go anywhere else because we like to use our own equipment.
Right.
Yes. And so we go in the van, we do it the old-fashioned way, and I love it. Yeah. I've been doing it all my life, and I just love being on the road.
Right. What part of Italy did you play? I just talked to a guy who lives in Turin.
We were north Italy, around Venice area.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, you just talked about it. I was going to ask you some memorable shows and places. What's the best audience that you've played before, would you say?
I don't know. That's a difficult one, actually, because, do you mean anybody over 100, or do you mean like an audience of 80, 100,000? It's very difficult.
No,
I do remember an AC/DC show.
Right. I was going to say not the size, but the enthusiasm of the crowd.
One that was off the wall and you could see it was AC/DC in Madrid.
Oh, okay.
That was, people were upside down.
Okay. All
They were
right.
doing handstands on each other's shoulders.
Okay. Wow.
I've never seen anything like it. They went absolutely crazy. I remember
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Um, and
Oh, I'd like to see that. I'd like
it's
to see.
very, because AC/DC crowds can be crazy anyway.
Yeah.
Wherever you go,
Right.
um, they've had a few beers, and why not?
Uh-huh.
And there's no inhibitions. No matter,
Right.
you look around, everybody's dancing, everybody's on their feet. If they're
Uh-huh.
up there, like 500 yards away, they're still dancing on their feet. Arms going. Um, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But this Madrid gig was like off the scale. I've never
Oh,
seen anything like it.
okay.
And the other thing was the Russian AC/DC show, the Ticino
Okay.
airfield. That was pretty crazy because the crowd, we were up on a stage and the crowd went over the horizon. You couldn't see the back of the crowd, the end of it.
Wow.
And the PA was stepped all the way along so they could get the sound properly.
Yeah.
Um, that was also memorable. But
Right.
they're all great gigs.
Yeah.
No matter who you're playing with, whether
Yeah.
it's Michael Schenker, David Gilmour, whoever, honestly, I just love to play drums. And it's as simple as that. I don't care where it is or the circumstances of where it is or how many people.
Right. Right.
Um,
You know, it
so
what's
it makes no difference to me whatsoever.
right. You know, what's fascinating to me is how universal music is. And a
Yes,
lot of times you don't need to know the lyrics to appreciate the music. I mean, it's a bonus if you know the lyrics, but just to appreciate the music,
yes,
it's all like you said,
absolutely.
all over the
It is
world.
a universal language, whether it's opera or country and
Right,
western or whatever,
right,
rock music, anything like that. But
right,
it is a universal language. You think, oh, that's not a bad song, or I enjoyed that.
right.
It made me cry.
You
Um,
know, right.
you
It
know,
touched. Yeah, when you're making those connections. You know, you're originally from Wales.
yeah.
Do you still live there, or you live in England?
No, I live in England and
Okay.
have most of my life.
Yeah. Well,
I
you've
lived in the States. I lived in the States. I lived in California for a while, and me and my missus lived in Las Vegas for a while.
well we we did talk briefly about the new album, Timescape. There you go. I like the cover. Who put that together? Whose idea was that?
That was Brave Words Records. They did that. It's their
Okay.
fault.
It's
Um,
their fault.
I think
Okay.
it's great. I like
Yeah.
it. I like it a
Yeah.
lot.
Right.
There's a lot of typos on the album though.
Oh no, really? Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm a very good proofreader,
yeah.
and obviously their guy isn't. Oh, sorry,
Oh,
sorry,
oh,
George.
I'm like that too. I'm a pretty good speller, and things like that stick out like a sore thumb.
I'm not going to write my book in an English way and then write another one in an American way. I'm sorry. I, I
No.
don't I don't have enough time for that. Quite
Right.
literally.
No, you don't. Nobody does. Nobody does. Well, how is that coming? The book coming along?
It's written, but I haven't collated it properly yet.
Okay.
Uh, a third of it, I should say, is put together properly. Um, but I think it may be three books actually, three
Oh,
small
great.
ones, but
Uh-huh.
or even decades. I don't know yet. I
Uh-huh.
haven't actually got down to doing it because I've been so busy doing this album for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Um, so I haven't had much time at all, either in the studio or doing interviews with anybody.
Right. Right.
But to me, it's very important, both those things,
Yes. Well,
recording the album and then promoting the album,
there
you
you
know?
go. That's right.
Um,
That's
Talking of which, there you are, folks.
there
Timescape.
it is again. You know what? If when I first saw that, if I didn't know it was from the album, I would think it was a new movie coming out. Just the cover looks like
Oh
that.
yeah,
Yep.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it
Honestly, I
is.
do.
It is a good cover. It is a good
Yeah.
cover. Yeah, yeah. Well, anything else you want to say about the new album? You mentioned, are you getting some good responses, good feedback?
Yes, it's only been 2 weeks out,
Yeah.
and the response has been tremendous.
Yeah.
It's had some good reviews. Some people don't like it at all. You can understand that. If they're metalheads, they ain't gonna like it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a well-rounded album. I think it's done really well. I think there are some good songs on it, and I'm hopeful that it will do something really good. But we'll see,
Yeah.
and we'll know it. We'll know by Christmas, so it might be a good Christmas present or Boxing Day or something. We call it Boxing Day. You call it
Oh, yeah,
something
Boxing
else.
Day. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, which is the day after Christmas.
Yes, that's right. That is true. Well, where does your daughter live? You said she lives here?
Seattle,
Okay. Okay. All
just
right.
outside Seattle.
Okay.
She's been there for a long, long time, 20 years maybe. She was married. She got 2 kids, my grandkids, of course. And one of my sons lives in Canada, in Calgary.
Okay.
And the other guy, the youngest son, lives not far from me, actually.
Okay.
Just an hour or so away.
Okay. Well, you kept one there in England with you, anyway.
Yeah. And they're both drummers. Both the sons are drummers.
Oh, okay. Well, you know where that comes from, yeah.
I warned them. I did warn them. Honestly,
Uh-huh.
I said to them both, "Don't be a drummer. Be
Uh-huh.
anything. Be
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a musician, learn guitar or keyboards or sing or something. But don't
Yeah.
be a drummer." And they're
Yeah.
both drummers. So
Well,
I
well,
tried putting them off.
yeah. Well, it was kind of hard for you to, hide your whole history from them and say, well, it didn't work for me. So you couldn't really say that,
No.
know.
Try tap dancing, guys.
There you
There's
go.
a feature in that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. Well, Chris, anything else that you'd like to mention in closing?
No, just or you can get. Did I say? You can get on chrisslade.com. You can buy a CD, a signed CD, and the Chris Slade Timeline on Facebook. You can also buy a CD. If you want to download, go to Brave Words Records, and they are doing the downloads. There'll also be links on the things I just mentioned for Brave Words Records. So you can buy downloads or CDs on chrisslade.com and on the Chris Slade Timeline on Facebook. So, wow, plugs over.
Do we have enough outlets for those plugs?
I don't know.
Well, I have mine plugged in, so my battery doesn't run out. I made sure I did that because I learned the hard way.
Funny enough, I did that too because
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to run short, but it's probably
No.
going to run out very soon. I can't see it because my hand's in the way.
Yeah, right.
So it's very
Okay,
nice
well,
talking to you, Greg.
yes,
Really has
it was
been.
very nice talking to you. And again, John, I'll have to thank him as well, and you thank him for hooking us up. And
I will.
I'll send you, or I'll send. I guess I'll send him a copy of this. Is that the best way
Yeah,
to do
please
it?
do. He'll
Okay.
send it to the whole record company, which has
Okay.
also come to me, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and get that out there and see what kind of response we get from this too. So
Sure.
there you go.
That'd be nice to find out.
Yes, yes.
I've forgotten the. Oh, are you in Texas?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, I am. So yeah, we'll see what kind of. I always like the comments. You find out people from years and years ago. That will say like, oh, I remember this. I remember seeing you in concert. I remember this album. I remember this song. Yeah, it's fascinating. I like that. Fans that you didn't
so
even
do
know.
I, actually. So do I. It's funny, people come up in gigs and say, "Oh, I saw you at Donington with AC/DC. Oh, I was at the concert with Uriah Heep." And I go, "Oh yeah, yeah. You were sat over there on the left, weren't you?" They go, "Yeah. How did
What a memory you have.
you were the one of the 100,000 people, weren't you? I know you were. Yeah."
Oh, that's good. I like that. All right, Chris. Well, it's been very enjoyable, and we will
Same.
be in touch. I'll be in touch with John anyway, but you thank him for me, and
I will.
I appreciate this, and all the best to you. Okay.
Same to you, and thank you very much.